If you replay conversations in your head long after they end, psychology says there's something rare about the way you process social interactions. Not paranoid, not obsessive, not anxious, rare, because most people don't analyze conversations deeply enough to replay them at all. They forget what was said within hours, sometimes within minutes. You remember the exact words someone used. You replay the tone they said it in. You analyze their body language, their facial expressions, the pauses between their sentences. You search for hidden meanings behind what was said and what wasn't said. And somewhere along the way, you were probably told that this means you're overthinking it, that you should let it go, that you're reading too much into things, that you need to move on, or stop analyzing every little word. But psychology tells a very different story. Conversation replay isn't random. It isn't a flaw. It's analytical. It's structured. It follows patterns. And in many cases, it's linked to a set of cognitive and emotional abilities that only a small percentage of people have. If you replay conversations not just once, but over and over, dissecting every detail, you likely have at least some of these 7 rare traits. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why your mind works this way and why it's not something to fix. Let's dive in. Trait number 1, hyper-perceptive social awareness. If you replay conversations, your brain is wired to pick up on social cues that most people completely miss. This isn't just about being observant. It's about operating at a level of social perception that feels almost exhausting. While most people hear the words being spoken and take them at face value, you're simultaneously processing tone, micro-expressions, hesitations, word choices, and emotional undertones. Your brain is running multiple layers of analysis in real time. And here's the thing, this doesn't stop when the conversation ends. Your brain continues processing because it hasn't finished analyzing yet. The replay isn't you being obsessive, it's your mind completing its natural analytical process. Psychology calls this high social monitoring. Research shows that people with this trait often grew up in environments where reading people accurately was necessary for emotional or physical safety. Maybe you had to gauge a parent's mood before speaking. Maybe you learned early that people don't always say what they mean. Maybe you discovered that missing subtle cues could lead to conflict or rejection. So your brain adapted. It became exceptional at reading between the lines. And now, even in safe environments, it keeps doing what it was trained to do: analyze, assess, and prepare. This is why you might replay a conversation with a coworker and suddenly realize hours later that their slight hesitation before agreeing with you meant they actually disagreed but didn't want to say it. Or why you can tell someone is upset even when they insist they're fine. You're not imagining things. You're reading data that most people don't even register. This level of social perception is rare. Studies suggest only about 15 to 20% of people have this heightened sensitivity to social dynamics. And yes, it can feel like a burden because you see things others don't, and sometimes you wish you could just turn it off. But it's also a profound strength. You understand people at a depth most never will. You can navigate complex social situations with precision. You know when someone needs support before they ask for it. You catch lies, manipulation, and dishonesty that others miss entirely. Your brain replays conversations because it's exceptional at reading people. That's not a flaw. That's a gift. Trait number 2, deep emotional processing. People who replay conversations don't just think about what was said, they feel it. Long after the words are spoken, the emotional weight of the conversation lingers, and your brain keeps returning to it because it's trying to process not just the content, but the emotional impact. Most people experience emotions in the moment and then move on. You don't. Your emotional system runs deeper. You feel things longer, more intensely, and with more complexity. When someone says something that hurts, even slightly, your brain doesn't just register it and forget. It replays it, examines it, and tries to understand why it hurt. This is called high emotional depth, and it's linked to a personality trait psychologists refer to as sensory processing sensitivity. People with this trait, often called highly sensitive people, or HSPs, make up about 20% of the population. They process emotional experiences more thoroughly than others. If you're someone who replays conversations, there's a good chance you fall into this category. You don't just hear words, you feel the emotions behind them. You sense when someone is holding back, You pick up on disappointment, frustration, or sadness, even when it's masked by polite language. And because your emotional processing runs so deep, you can't just move on from a conversation the way others do. Your brain needs time to fully process what happened, what was felt, and what it means. The replay is part of that process. This can feel exhausting. You might wonder why you can't just let things go like everyone else seems to. Why a single offhand comment can stay with you for days. Why you're still thinking about a conversation from 3 weeks ago. But here's what that really means. You experience life at an emotional depth most people never reach. You're capable of profound empathy, deep connection, and emotional intelligence that others simply don't have. You understand not just what people say, but what they feel, and that's rare. Yes, it comes with challenges, but it also means you're capable of relationships, insights, and emotional awareness that most people will never experience. Your depth isn't a flaw, it's a strength. Trait number 3. Pattern recognition and predictive thinking. If you replay conversations, your brain isn't just reviewing the past, it's trying to predict the future. You're not obsessing over what was said for no reason. You're analyzing patterns, looking for clues, and preparing for what might come next. This is called predictive social modeling, and it's a cognitive trait that emerges when someone's brain is wired to anticipate outcomes based on subtle data. In other words, your mind is constantly trying to map out what people will do, think, or say based on what they've already done. When you replay a conversation, you're asking yourself questions like, what did that tone mean? Were they being honest? Did I say something wrong? Are they upset with me? What will happen next time I see them? These aren't irrational worries. They're your brain running probability assessments. And the reason it does this is because at some point, being able to predict people's behavior kept you safe, helped you avoid conflict, or allowed you to navigate complex social or emotional situations. Research shows that people who grew up in unpredictable environments where moods shifted suddenly, or where they had to manage other people's emotions, often developed this trait. Their brains learned early that predicting outcomes could prevent harm, so they became exceptional at reading patterns in behavior, language, and tone. Even now, in situations that are objectively safe, your brain keeps running this program. It replays conversations not to torture you, but to gather information. It's looking for patterns. It's trying to predict what someone will do next, so you can prepare, respond, or protect yourself. This is why you might replay a brief exchange with a friend and think, they seemed off. Are they pulling away? Did I do something? Your brain is pattern matching. It's comparing this interaction to past ones and flagging any inconsistencies. And here's the thing, you're often right. When you get a gut feeling that something is wrong, or that someone is upset, or that a relationship is shifting, you're usually correct. Because your brain has been collecting data that others aren't even aware of. This level of predictive thinking is rare. Most people don't analyze social interactions this way. They take things as they come. You're constantly running simulations, preparing, and strategizing. It's mentally exhausting, yes, but it also makes you incredibly perceptive and prepared. You're not overthinking, you're thinking ahead, and that's a powerful skill. Trait number 4, high self-awareness and internal reflection. People who replay conversations are often deeply self-reflective. You don't just think about what others said, you think about what you said, how you said it, whether you came across the way you intended, whether you should have said something differently. This is called metacognitive awareness, which is a fancy way of saying you think about your own thinking, and it's much rarer than you might assume. Most people go through life without deeply examining their own behavior, motivations, or communication patterns. You do it constantly. When you replay a conversation, part of what you're doing is evaluating yourself. Did I sound stupid? Did I talk too much? Did I interrupt them? Did I come across as awkward? Should I have said that differently? This can feel like self-criticism, and sometimes it is. But it's also a form of growth. You're someone who genuinely cares about how you show up in the world. You want to communicate well, connect authentically, and be understood. And because of that, you reflect on your interactions with a level of depth most people never reach. Research in psychology shows that high self-awareness is linked to emotional intelligence, empathy, and personal growth. People who regularly reflect on their behavior are better able to learn from their mistakes, improve their relationships, and develop self-understanding. But there's a shadow side to this trait. When self-reflection turns into self-judgment, it becomes painful. You replay a conversation not to learn, but to beat yourself up. You focus on every awkward pause, every poorly chosen word, every moment you wish you could take back. If this resonates with you, here's what's important to understand. Your self-awareness is a strength, but it needs to be balanced with self-compassion. The fact that you care so much about how you communicate, how you're perceived, and how you impact others is beautiful. Most people don't think about these things at all. Yes, you'll make mistakes. Yes, you'll say things you wish you hadn't, but the fact that you notice, that you care, that you reflect, that's what makes you capable of deep, meaningful growth. That's rare, and it's valuable. You're not being too hard on yourself because you're broken. You're holding yourself to a high standard because you care, and that matters. Trait number 5, trauma-informed hypervigilance. Here's where the conversation gets deeper. If you replay conversations obsessively, especially if you focus on what might have gone wrong, what someone might have meant, or how you might have been perceived, there's a strong chance this behavior is rooted in past emotional experiences. Psychology has a term for this: hypervigilance. It's a state where your nervous system is constantly scanning for potential threats, even in situations that are objectively safe. And for many people who replay conversations, this hypervigilance developed as a survival mechanism in response to childhood emotional neglect, inconsistent caregiving, criticism, or relational trauma. If you grew up in an environment where you had to constantly monitor other people's emotions, where love felt conditional, or where you were criticized, dismissed, or misunderstood, your brain learned to replay interactions as a way of protecting you. It learned to ask, did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? Am I safe here? What do I need to do to avoid conflict or rejection? Even now, years later, your brain is still running that program. It replays conversations not because you're overthinking, but because it's trying to keep you safe. It's looking for signs of danger, rejection, or emotional withdrawal. It's doing what it was trained to do. And this is important to understand. This isn't your fault. You're not broken. Your brain adapted to survive in an environment where being able to read people and predict their reactions was necessary. That adaptation helped you. It protected you. But now, in healthier environments, it can feel like a burden. The good news is that this pattern can be healed. When you understand that your conversation replay habit is rooted in a nervous system response, not a personality flaw, you can begin to work with it differently. You can start to notice when you're replaying a conversation out of fear versus out of genuine analysis. You can begin to reassure the part of your brain that's still trying to protect you that you're safe now. This doesn't mean the replaying will stop overnight, but it does mean you can approach it with compassion instead of judgment. You're not overthinking because you're anxious or obsessive. You're doing it because your brain learned early that vigilance equals safety. That's not a flaw. That's survival. And now, with awareness, you can begin to heal. Trait number 6, exceptional verbal memory. If you replay conversations, there's a good chance you have an exceptionally strong memory for spoken language. You don't just remember the gist of what someone said, you remember their exact words, sometimes word for word, weeks or even months later. This is called high verbal working memory, and it's a cognitive trait that only a portion of the population has. Most people remember the general idea of a conversation but forget the specific language. You don't. You remember the phrasing, the tone, the pauses, the emphasis. This can feel overwhelming. You might wish you could forget certain conversations, especially painful ones. But the reason your brain holds on to this information is because it's wired to process language at a deep level. You're not replaying conversations because you're obsessive. You're replaying them because your memory system is exceptionally strong. Research shows that people with high verbal memory often excel in fields that require precise communication, storytelling, writing, or interpersonal understanding. Your ability to recall conversations in detail gives you an advantage in understanding people, resolving conflicts, and detecting inconsistencies. But it also means you carry more emotional weight because you remember not just what was said, but how it felt, and that can be exhausting. If this is you, know that your memory isn't a curse, it's a gift. You're capable of understanding and retaining information that most people lose within hours, and that's rare. So, if you replay conversations in your head, you're not broken. You're not overthinking. You're not anxious or obsessive or too sensitive. You're someone with a rare combination of cognitive and emotional traits that most people simply don't have. You're hyper-perceptive. You process emotions deeply. You recognize patterns others miss. You're self-aware and reflective. You've developed hypervigilance as a survival mechanism. You have exceptional verbal memory, and you crave relational clarity. These traits didn't develop randomly. They developed because, at some point, they helped you survive, adapt, or protect yourself. And now, even when you don't need them the way you once did, they're still part of how you process the world. The goal isn't to stop replaying conversations entirely. The goal is to understand why you do it and to work with your brain instead of against it. Give yourself permission to analyze when you need to, but also give yourself permission to let go when you can. Remind yourself that not every conversation holds hidden meaning. Not every interaction requires dissection, and not every silence is a sign of rejection. You're rare, you're perceptive, you're deep, and the world needs people like you. People who think, who feel, who notice, who care. So the next time you catch yourself replaying a conversation, ask yourself, is my brain trying to protect me? Is it looking for patterns? Is it processing emotions? Or is it just doing what it does best, analyzing deeply? And then, with compassion, decide whether you need to keep replaying or whether it's time to let it go. You're not overthinking. You're deeply thinking. And that's not a flaw, that's a gift. Which of these 7 traits resonated most with you? Let me know in the comments below. And if this video made you feel seen, understood, or validated, consider subscribing, because there's a lot more where this came from. Thank you for watching. And remember, you're not broken, you're rare.